Everyone, welcome back to another episode of Cohesion. And today I'm joined once again by Jordan Katz, Chief Insights Officer at Simpplr. He advises organizations on the influential use of data and analytics to develop strategies that predict outcomes and increase performance. Now, last time we discussed Simpplr's 2024 State of Internal Communications Report. Today, we're going to get into the future of employee experience. So last time, a lot about internal communications, those departments, what they work on, and a little bit of like what we see sort of moving forward. And today, a little bit more about employee experience broadly. Jordan, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be back.
Yeah, this is going to be this is going to be a lot of fun. This is a big topic, and before I get too far, like what I want to do is I don't know if it was Socrates or Plato. It's one of those where they're like, okay, define your terms. And now that was before they started debating. I don't think we're going to debate necessarily. But
I don't know. Maybe you think employee experience is completely unimportant and you should just wring every bit of productivity out of a human regardless of how they feel. Maybe. Bring it on. Let's debate.
Maybe. Yeah. Let's what do we talk about when we talk about employee experience? Like what do we like? What is, I guess, employee experience?
Okay, well, employee experience is a combination of everything that occurs around employees and to employees, right? So we talk about employee engagement a lot. That means different things for different people. When we think about employee experience, employee engagement is sort of the study of the level of connection they have with their manager and their company and the likelihood that they're willing to give discretionary effort or be more productive. Employee, that really is just about like the employee themselves, but employee experience is more holistic. It's more comprehensive, right? It's about their interaction with technology. It's about their interaction with people, the policies of the organization, processes, all different types of things that occur, including interactions with customers, can make up the employee experience. So when we say employee experience, it's like the atmosphere around the earth. And when we talk about employee engagement, maybe it's like your local town and where you live and where you sit at your desk, right? Though,
perfect. Yeah.
Elements of sitting at your desk can impact your employee experience. And we'll get into that certainly later, there are a lot of nuances to that.
Right. Atmosphere around the earth. No, that's a good example. Well, I know a lot of people, myself included, can get lost in employee experience is just the, like, are you happy or not at work? Or how do you feel about your job? Right. Or what do you think about benefits? It almost gets sort of pulled in with sentiment, maybe a little bit. And that's important for measuring, but it's not the whole thing. Okay, so employee experience, atmosphere, and then employee engagement, things like that, a little bit tighter. Well, then that's good, establishing the baseline. But you know what? I forgot, Jordan. I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, great. Let's break the ice.
Personal Oprah Winfrey questions, Barbara Walters questions. So if you can tear up a little bit on one of these, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
I'll get emotional. I'm terrible actor.
No pressure. All right. For the first one, if you could know the answer to one unsolved mystery, which mystery would you want to know the truth about?
One unsolved mystery. Oh, I know. It's not helpful to anybody, but I've always been very interested since like they came out with it in Discovery, like the search for the colossal squid or the giant squid. You know how sometimes they do those documentaries where they're like, we went down, 10,000 feet. We're searching for this animal that can like attack blue whales. And like somewhere down there, they find a tentacle and it's as big as a bus. Like, I really want to know what's going on deep in the water with the most massive squid pot. I've like, every time that comes on, I'm really like get deep into it.
That's super unique. Like other people, I would guess aliens, Bigfoot, JFK, but no. You're like, what's
well, I'm pretty sure they're starting to like, aren't they talking about aliens now? I feel like that's going to be released. There's congressional hearings, so we're on the verge. That one, somebody's taking care of that already. But like, you never know. No?
Where's our Jules
supposed to be something a little bit more like highbrow? Should I said maybe?
Well, no, I don't think that. I definitely don't think that's a highbrow question.
No. Perfect. Well, let's also go with like alternative proteins. Like, let's unlock the value of feeding the world, so I don't come off as too much of a kook. All right.
Great.
Let's go with that.
What was the most impactful piece of media you've consumed this year? By the way, that was I phrased that really official piece of media you consume.
We went from squids.
What have you seen? Okay. Yeah. What have you seen? What have you heard? That's like, wow, that's changed the way I look at the world.
Well, I think you're gonna hate this because I'm gonna kind of bunt it, but there's two things that happened. Okay, over the course of the past, let's say, 12 calendar months, right? I've worked on two pieces of research that I think are really important and really transformative in terms of what I'm doing and the companies I work for. One is understanding the perceptions and perspectives of nurses and doctors, like closely post-pandemic, and specifically what drives their employee experience towards less burnout and greater retention and greater productivity. Mm-hmm, right. And so I worked on, employee experience for healthcare, and we ran one of the largest nurse and physician studies, in recent times, specifically post-pandemic, and found, a number of the different drivers and factors that actually predict whether they're likely to stay and whether they're likely to be burnt out, how likely things are to create great clinical outcomes for patients. And then the second one was, the first great research study I worked on for Simpplr, the State of Internal Comms report, which we just reviewed and in the previous podcast. And what I found was I talked about it both uplifting and positive and kind of depressing and negative at the same time, right? That there are teams who absolutely leverage modern tools and holistic platforms and generative AI to deliver great employee experience, communications, behavior change, etc. But there's also, and it's certainly stratified on a distribution, but there's also like a large portion of teams that are, for whatever reason, and I don't think it's because they don't want to, but they absolutely are hamstrung and not delivering the value and impact and targeting and modern tools usage that they would want. And so I thought I would see a little bit more skewness to the right, like a larger portion of the distribution, like we're using great tools, we're targeting people with very personalized communications, and we're using dynamic channels to reach people where they are, when in actuality it was much more of a normal distribution. Since I have studied statistics, I should have assumed, right? Foolish me. But, there's people on both ends. I'm forever the optimist, so I thought maybe we'd be in a different place. But what I loved about that was, despite discovering things that maybe I wasn't so thrilled about, we're able to put something together with very specific action recommendations, what to do, how to do it. Not like, hey, you got to spend millions upon millions of dollars on software, but, get the right fundamental motions in place, support yourself with great software platforms and tools, and do your best to do some of the basic at 2024 stuff that probably in 2019 would have felt very high tech, but now you have at your fingertips the ability to do the things that great teams do with sort of minimal effort.
Yeah. Well, easier to have something to say than somebody saying like, yeah, we're doing that. So we're doing targeting.
Right.
We've got sort of unified, we're doing personalized comms, and it's not working.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Oh, yeah. That would have been, actually would have been horrible. Okay, fair. That would have absolutely been way worse than what I experienced. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not have that.
You'd be like, high five, you're measuring. Congratulations.
Yeah. Great. Great. Everybody has a charter and well-communicated goals. All right.
I want to, before I go on to the final sort of personalized professional question here at the top, the nurse and doctor thing is really, really interesting to me. And have you found, like, in doing that kind of research where it seems, I don't want to say easy, but it's like everybody knows doctors and nurses. So when we talk about kind of the way that they work or what goes through, have you found that their experience has been canary in the coal mine, so to speak, or a predictor of, like, does it equate with what we're seeing, say, in tech or manufacturing or in other industries? Do they have similar employee experience struggles? Do they have similar feelings about work and the future of work?
So, couple of things. First of all, it's very hard to reach nurses and physicians, right? And to get their actual perspective for a couple of reasons. First of all, super busy. Second of all, absolutely don't walk around or don't sit around on a laptop all day or even answer phones, right? So their job is mobile, minute to minute. You know, it's in a specific building, but you're not sitting doing paperwork or fielding phone calls that aren't outbound to just give results, right?
So, well, that's good. I mean, my femur's broken. I don't want you taking surveys that Jordan sent you. Yeah.
Right. True. That said, like, that means you asked if they're a canary in the coal mine. Like, maybe not so much, because we don't really get their opinion very often. I would more likely call them like one of the great mysteries that you were hoping I would say that I could solve, in the sense that there's a lot going on in the head and under the skin of this absolutely critical population that we don't know about, but that we should strive to understand, take action on, and optimize. And I think I might say the same for teachers and probably for first responders as well, right? These are all populations that absolutely would greatly benefit from a decluttering of their workspace and workplace. And I don't just mean like physical items. I mean, if the average office worker receives 121 emails per day, that's probably the same for physicians and nurses or more. And they don't have the focused time in front of their computer or handheld to even field those. So we need, and God forbid they have Slack and instant messenger or whatever, right? That we need to think about those types of people and, you know, take a human-centered approach, which is to say, don't message them 1,000 times with 1,000 items. Every message to them should be condensed, should be in a centralized location, should be easy to access, and shouldn't just be generalized, right? You should be served up in a personalized way, leveraging AI to have, when they open up their handheld or their laptop, every second is precious, and we should respect that and coordinate the way we talk to them in such a way.
Well, this, you know, in the report. So listen, I still have a personal question for you, but I'm going to ask it at the end, because this leads perfectly into the stuff I saw. Yeah, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's your show.
When they this leads really well into this report about employee experience. And when we're looking at labor shortages, we're looking at job satisfaction, we're looking at the way that people work, all the way through this report. And when you talk about nurses, first responders, teachers, doctors, you're naming all of these things that are in high demand, labor shortage, burnout. People want, like, they don't last. You got teachers that quit and become Uber drivers because they don't want to be a teacher anymore. It says something about employee experience. Are there things that we uncover in the employee experience report that and I think you mentioned a few of them that sort of speak to that, in how to improve an employee experience with these types of employees? Because I know that it stretches to everyone. You got, you know, technology workers, we've got frontline workers at McDonald's, and it kind of covers these pieces. But is there anything else that you noticed in that report that would speak specifically to these frontline, you know, essential workers, and sort of improving perhaps their employee experience?
I mean, so maybe not specifically. I think there's all kinds of, and I'm going to say this in a way that turns it into totally specifically, but using them as the edge case, right?
Yeah.
I'll bring it around, I promise. Using them as the edge case will enable us to handle the elements of employee experience that lift the positivity for everyone. Okay?
Yeah.
So, and I like to say, and I've been saying it for many, many years, maybe it'll catch on, employee experience is both rapidly changing and hyper local. And what I mean by that, rapidly changing, like every experience you have, every interaction you have flavors how you are feeling in that moment, right? It flavors your employee engagement, it flavors your morale, it flavors your sentiment. So if you have a positive experience, maybe you get peer-to-peer recognition. We know that social recognition or peer-to-peer recognition has a very positive impact on the way you feel. And in fact, I read a research report about Symantec that found when there's social recognition or peer-to-peer recognition, that resulted in a 14% increase in engagement scores, right? Wow. So there's real ROI in getting recognized by people around you. Now, the converse of that is where you have a negative interaction, like maybe your manager yells at you or somebody says your work sucks or whatever. Yeah. That has a much more negative effect than positive reinforcement has on how long you feel. So
even more changing. Negative than 15%, 15% increase, but even worse on the other side. Wow.
I don't have a great stat on that at hand right now, but as you look and research like the effect of negative interactions, you'll see that it lasts much longer. Yeah. So rapidly changing. On the other, and the other point is that like hyperlocal, you'll notice I don't say like, the company came up with a new mission statement and that had a positive or negative effect on my employee experience in the moment. That's much more of a like a holistic, longer term or longer affecting type of impact.
Yeah.
So like hyperlocal, meaning it's within your work group. And we know that work group effects and who your direct manager is has an absolute long-term effect on who you are, how you experience your workplace, and certainly like is directly correlated, perhaps up to 70% correlated to how you feel in employee engagement. And so when we talk about sort of that frontline worker, right? Mm-hmm. If you solve their problems, you solve everyone's problem pretty easily because they're harder to reach. They're harder to change. They spend less time with their boss, maybe less time with their peers. Okay. So the couple of things that are, come out of this report or that come out of research that we've studied recently is like U.S. employee engagement has pretty much range bound. Like 30 to 35% of employees are always fully engaged, right? For the past 15 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
At the same time, 15 to 18% are actively disengaged. That sort of disgruntled, having negative impact on their peers. That group always about the same. And that group in the middle, sort of not engaged or leaning one way or the other, that's the group where I think you're going to get the most juice from the squeeze.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But given that since the year 2000, and everyone has been working on employee engagement, or most great organizations really focus hard on improving the employee experience. Given that it's range bound for that period of time, must be something else going on. And what it is the ecosystem around people that really affects their experience over time with their work, with their peers, with their manager, et cetera. And more and more, we're finding that technology, particularly as we've moved into a hybrid working paradigm, technology is the stuff that truly flavors and is moving the needle. And the cluttering or decluttering of technology and interactions with your tech can have a very strong effect. And really what I mean by that is like, if you've got a great digital workspace, then negative effects of broken processes or systems or non-optimal interactions with tech, or having to, like 70% of employees say it takes an average of 4 to 7 apps to complete one HR task.
Yeah.
Right. And somewhere around 38 apps or programs touched per day. Right. And so you can imagine just in itself, regardless if you're sitting at a desk or somewhere else, that amount of switching and context switching and tools finding and back and forth from form to form is just going to degrade whatever positive interactions that you're having, or positive momentum or passion that you have about your work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's like you're at
Yeah.
a party, but
Right.
you keep having to like step aside to take a phone call, step aside to take a phone call, step aside to take a phone call,
Exactly.
over and over and over again. I think I don't know if it's somebody from Burson or if it's somebody from Simpplr, but you refer to it as digital friction, I think, in the report. That makes sense to me.
Yes, for sure. Digital friction is absolutely absolutely a great way to say this. And I know that we talk about, and Will Stars Watson put out a research report, and I and Miriam Connaughton from Simpplr, our great CHRO and Chief Experience Officer, talks a lot about digital friction, because it really describes the slowdown you experience when you have to context switch or toggle between an app or a piece of information, or God forbid you can't find it, because it takes like 23 minutes to recover your focus after something like that happens. Right. And that creates one of the things we found, back in another past research study that I worked on, was the linkage between that type of interaction and burnout. Right. 38% of employees are experiencing burnout right now. And the number one driver of burnout is ineffective processes and systems.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It couldn't be more clear. If you're an organization and you care about employee experience and you're trying to increase employee engagement, employee productivity, employee retention, you have to look beyond just surveying your employees and giving the managers the results and have them talk about how to create an engaging work group. That's absolutely critical. But you have to go beyond that to understand the atmosphere, the ecosystem, everything around the employees. Because if I'm sitting at my desk and I'm on a video conference and I can't get my mic to work because there's a Zoom update that hasn't been pushed out, right? Which we all experience over and over. Or God forbid, Zoom constantly asks me to update, right? It really asks me to update every time I'm like 1 minute late to the most important meeting in the world. Like, you got to push an update. You can't get around it. I can't delay this. Nope. It's going to take 4 minutes minimum, and you're going to look like an idiot. Right. Thanks, Sim.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
I like what you're. One way that I'm thinking about it from what you're saying right now is that employees that people that really love their job, really love their work, I would even say really love their life, they're able to experience success. Maybe it's just not, I don't mean success capital S. I mean success meaning I'm moving the needle a certain direction, or I'm making an impact here. And scrolling through your inbox and just replying to emails isn't that. Or just having meetings isn't that. Like, it just makes you like, why am I being paid? Kind of thing that you run into.
Well, I never think that. Slow down. I know why I'm being paid. Come on, man. People are going to listen to this.
I'm being paid to look at email. I'm being paid to post emojis in Slack. Yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah.
So, you make a good point, which is, if you think about email as just the evolution of actual mail, the world we live in right now is every day we go to our mailbox and we have 121 on average letters. And then we stack them in our office in chronological order.
Yeah.
And then when we have to search for something, we read, 40% of them. And then we have to reference back to that and write someone a letter. We have to search through them in chronological order. And yes, we have a little bit of a card catalog system, like we're in the library. But I cannot think of a less efficient approach to doing communications broadly to people when it's absolutely critical, right?
Oh, yeah.
Versus we wake up in the morning, we walk, let's say it's the future, we walk over to our, stand-up monitor, we click the button, and every message that's absolutely critical to us is right on the first page, right? And then tasks we're supposed to complete or must reads right over here. A conversational AI that we can interact with, say, hey, conversational AI of your choice name. I need to register for a leave, or I need to submit my expense report, or I'm having trouble with my something's going on with my technology, like my my podcast mic doesn't work. I need you to send me a a replacement or a fix.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that conversational AI, instead of then pinging an HR person or an IT person and making them work on like non-strategic tasks,
Mm-hmm.
computers or AI, that systems that are very good at completing rules-based rote tasks can handle that for us, and we're all more productive as a result, and we have a better experience. Versus if I had to register for a leave at prior companies, first I'd have to go find the policy. Like, what's my leave policy? Right?
Yeah.
Then I'd have to figure out what forms do I have to fill out that contain the exact information that you already know about me because I'm in your HRIS system, but I would have to refill out those forms to then submit them, probably via fax, to whoever, right? And who has a fax machine? And why do I have to re-enter information that you already have of mine? And why do I have to go search my email, which is already, just stacked letters in chronological order? It's just a terrible system that creates a scenario in which, and Deloitte did a great study on this, 87% of professionals are passionate about their current jobs, but 64% of them frequently feel stressed or frustrated at work. Like, we have a primed and ready to go race car with rocket fuel in the tank. And then, we load up a bunch of sandbags in the trunk that represent crappy tools and inefficient processes, right? There's no reason for that. And the more we study employee experience, the more we learn how critical it is to think holistically about the work people do, the task distribution they have, and how we can operationalize great efficiency to free using systems and AI to free up people to do the strategic work that will catapult our organizations into the next level from a performance perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. This really resonates with me because I think about so we talked about it a few minutes ago, and led to this, but you've got to create a really great employee experience. You mentioned employee personalization. That makes sense. Like my front page news is different than your front page news. And right now, a lot of places don't do that. I know I don't. I fight to make sure that this executive doesn't send something to the entire company on this day so that this executive can send something. But what I'm saying is everybody's front page is the same, and that's not true. So personalized experience, peer-to-peer, like recognition, like that creates a great employee experience. Great managers, like they're empowered, they're good, they connect with people, and like this sense of belonging. And I can do that if my company is made of 3 employees, like without anything, because we're all we're all going to hang out and we're going to give high fives and we're going to go get burritos and we're going to be able to do that. But as this is the crux, like what you're saying with employee experience at organizations, that as soon as you even get to 30 employees, how are you going to be able to do that? Because it just takes an extraordinary amount of time if you're just going to try to do that one-on-one.
Yeah.
You're going to have something.
Right. Even with 30 employees, is not possible. But if you could start from scratch, building up your infrastructure, you can really orchestrate something that hums. That's great, right?
Yeah.
You leverage AI. You unify all your technology in a way that's integrated for each employee to create a great experience, right? So everybody's going to have a tech stack, right?
Yeah.
Let's be super strategic about A, what technology we use, but B, how do we put a layer on top of that allows everyone to access everything frictionlessly, that serves up information and allows you to search across the entire organization in an easy way, and reduces clutter by creating a communication and social interaction hub for those employees, and then prioritize the experience beyond technology. Just like you said, great managers, regardless of how they work, because what's not important is where people work. What is important is how productive and how excellent they work. And then finally, the piece that we haven't really talked about is how do you enable employees and empower employees and give them a voice in everything that happens
Right.
Or everything relevant that happens, without creating like we have to give them surveys every 2 days, or like I mean, I have worked with companies that wanted a daily pulse survey. How you feeling every day? It's just
Wow.
too much unactionable data. But if you create a scenario in which people feel empowered to share their voice, and that there's a feedback loop that will result in at least their perception of that their idea was considered or action was taken, then that raises their employee engagement, their employee, their connection to the business, their ability to work productively, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, what do you mean just their perception? Are we revealing something here where it was just like,
I mean, kind of.
we're
Let's be
telling you that we
pragmatic, right?
listen to you? Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, like, let's be pragmatic, right? Like, if someone comes to you with a terrible idea,
Yeah.
you can't just implement that idea because you have created a policy of empowerment. But you can indicate that I've ingested and considered your idea, and it's, you've educated me as a leadership team. And while we're not going to take that specific, we're not going to give everybody brand new Jordans to wear every single day in your coal mine, right? Because that's just impractical. Everybody will get their shoes dirty and hurt their toes, right? But I understand maybe you're looking for something related to footwear or something better, right? So, right, not every idea is amazing, but every employee should have at least the ability to share feedback and to have a voice. And I feel like I know from research that I did with prior clients that has a positive impact, and it makes life easier for managers and leaders, because they either feel compelled to ignore everything, which has a depressive impact on the employees.
Right. La 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 la.
Or exactly. Or they feel the need to read every comment and then react like, hey, I heard your idea about Air Jordans in the coal mine. It is a bad idea because you're going to hurt your feet, right? No, just that, we gather the information, we hear your voice, we're open to your suggestions, and we do pay attention to them. And then here's some of the actions that we've taken as a result of employee feedback. That's what you need to do so that people legitimately, I don't want you to lie about it, but legitimately feel heard.
Yeah.
And then when you do these things, you definitely see pronounced impact on performance levels and the bottom line. So Forrester did a great research study specifically on the impact of Simpplr's employee experience platform, right?
Yeah.
And they looked at productivity savings from improved search, right? The ability to search across all of the technology and resources within the organization, productivity gains from reduced number of emails, cost savings from eliminating legacy platforms, and HR labor cost savings from self-service enabled by the things that I talked about earlier, right? This is just for like an average sized organization. These aren't representative numbers that you should use if you have a 200,000 person organization, or if you have a 250 person organization. But the total was, over $3 million a year, almost $4 million a year, and represents, a multi-times return on investment, just based on very simple, not like knocking the doors off the performance of changes to the employee experience, right? So you spend money and time, and not even that much time, figuring out how to center everything you're doing from a technology perspective, a recognition perspective, listening perspective, in one very powerful employee experience layer. And you immediately retrieve significant gains monetarily, but even more importantly, in the way people do work, the way they feel about their work, and the way they're able to accomplish goals in alignment with the company mission and vision.
Yeah. There seems to be a challenge because that feels very no brainer to me, and being able to do something like that. I'm not saying the one ring to unite them all for everything, your email, your development and everything, but for this particular, but we from the report, I think it says only 18% of companies have an HR tech stack. Like you mentioned tech stack. And when we talk about this, what prevents I guess companies from doing that? It's because they got legacy systems and we have to use these. Is it we just don't have the resources to move forward? Like what's preventing like a 90%? Yeah, we have an HR tech stack,
Yeah.
like we have a marketing tech stack, like we have a developer tech stack. What's
S-
stopping that, do you think?
Yeah, good question. So just to be fully clear to our listeners, it's 18% of companies have an HR tech stack designed to optimize employee experience.
Got it.
Right.
So everybody has
So
something that they're using for technology.
exactly, because
You're right.
unless you're a
Yeah.
very small organization, I mean, you outgrow an Excel spreadsheet or QuickBooks very quickly. So you're going to need HR information system. You're going to need a recruiting
Right.
system. You're going to need, all different types of technology in order to manage the transactions that are just inherent to having employees. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody's
Yeah.
going to have that. But it's only been in recent days, though very much accelerated by the pandemic and the move to remote and hybrid work, that leaders, HR leaders, and much more slowly, no offense, IT leaders have even had to consider the employee experience impacts of the tech stack, right? The IT budget is and this is where a lot of the money comes from usually in the tech stack, is focused on effectiveness and efficiency, security, integrations, cost, etc. And for a CHRO to go into technology, and for a chief information systems or technology officer to push into the HR realm, it's never easy. It's not, I mean, depending on how big your organization is, you could feel incredibly siloed away. But when those two leaders are strategic and unite to think about not just like, how's this going to fit in with our layer of bricks of technology,
Yeah.
but how is this actually going to um, inspire the right behaviors, to increase and drive productivity, to decrease burnout and decrease friction, and center around the way the most important resource in our organization needs it to, act and interact, your employees. Then you get that 18% of companies, which I suggest, when we do longitudinal studies of those types of companies, will have much greater returns on investment, or return on equity, or earnings per share if they're a public company, or all the different types of monetary positive outcomes, similar to the like 2000s through 2008, or sorry, the early 2000s through like 2015, when research was continually uncovering the fact that if you focused on creating high employee engagement within your work groups, you would yield extremely positive financial returns as a result.
Yeah.
And so we'll see the same. My prediction, it's on the permanent record, is that we'll see, when people focus on digital employee experience and creating great comprehensive EX platforms, then we'll see, similar types of research come out that says, if you did this 5 years ago, you vastly outperformed organizations that did
not. I like in that regard, getting a platform together that has all of that and have that kind of a like Simpplr is a perfect example. I talk like I'm not going to say like, oh no, let's be agnostic. No, Simpplr is a perfect example for this working. I've got an interesting question that I've run into professionally
Sure.
regarding this. And it's of course adoption, change management, that can be difficult and everything else. I'm just going to call it the Slack question. Like Slack and Teams, like those two, and I think partly the way they've been positioned, partly that like as people moved over to it. And by the way, I heard you badmouth Slack a little bit with a heaven forbid, or like a like that, like you did it quickly, but I heard it come through. But you have, especially engineering, like I've been in organizations where engineering decided on the communication tool, the employee engagement tool, because they're like, we'll quit unless we use Slack, kind of thing.
Right.
How you sort of address, I guess, the existing, is it you have a platform that's really good at integrating and pulling all these things into one place, so you still only have one place that you need to go? Or is it flipped and you say you're in Slack, and if you need to chat with the chat bot that's part of Simpplr and where the data is, that you do it that direction? Like, How do you either overcome something like that and say, okay, we're done, or do you integrate something like that in some way to make it easier for people?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you asked that because it's completely self-serving to me, which is to say that I've been hammering on my soapbox about dynamic channel strategy, right?
Okay.
Because just because I don't like getting over too many messages in Slack doesn't mean that Slack and that I apparently badmouth Slack on a podcast that's going to be broadcasted to millions upon millions of listeners.
Howdy, right? Salesforce.
Yeah, not a good play for my future career, but fine. There are people who only use Slack and do not use email, right?
Right.
And there are people who only use email and do not use Slack or Teams or whatever. And what it's about is not creating a scenario in which one is better than the other. It's about a computer system, an artificial intelligence, a platform, a technology, understanding what you prefer based on your actions and interactions with tech, and then helping serve up the message that needs to be delivered, or the knowledge or access to information or access to apps or tools through the channel that makes most sense for you, for your best employee experience, for your most productivity, and for, the best outcome for you and your team. So Slack is like a breakthrough technology for engineering teams. I know for most engineers that I talk to, and that's amazing. But is it the perfect productivity tool for me? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'm not good at Slack. Maybe I'll get better and it'll be better for me. But that's the way I feel. And so the systems or platforms that you integrate into your organization should be able to determine that on its own without like too much human intervention. No, there should be a human going, well, Jordan ignores a lot of Slack messages. We shouldn't send Jordan messages, like critical messaging through Slack. We should hit him in his Simpplr homepage.
Well, that happens now. I know, working with, say, a group of executives, you got to communicate, and you'll learn quickly. This one prefers email. This one prefers Slack. I have to send a text message to this one. How would it be? Imagine a world where I just have to put it in one place, and they don't even have to opt in. That's what's amazing in what you're talking about. They wouldn't have to say, listen, Shawn, or listen, Simpplr, or listen, Rufus, the AI. This is how I prefer my communications. It could, or it just watches and says, hey, guess what? Jordan doesn't like Slack very much. I'm gonna send it to him on the platform because that's what he uses all the time.
Yeah, he wakes up in the morning, opens up at Simpplr, it's called Backyard, and I see what kind of messages I need to read, and it says these are must reads, so I prioritize those first. And maybe I'm a slave to the machine, but like I'm fine with that right now because that's one more thing I don't have to think about, right? I'm managing all these different things both inside my work life and outside of my work life. It's very anecdotal, but like I don't want to have to make a decision about what I read first. If somebody's just going to say this is what you should read first, boom, you just saved me, 60 seconds. And that adds up day over, throughout the day. Maybe I'm saving an hour each day. That's amazing. That's amazing productivity. Now, this doesn't always work. Like I'm not necessarily the perfect representative sample here or example here because the American Psychological Association did just released a study that I think was really interesting. And they basically measured the percentage of workers reporting negative attitudes about work or positive attitudes about work, depending on whether they are worried or not worried about AI.
Yeah.
Right. And so I talk a lot about ambiguity and lack of clarity and how communication and certainty really accelerates an employee's perspective and feelings in a positive manner, right? Really makes them feel better. So if you're living in a world of complete ambiguity or non-clarity about whatever your role or what you're supposed to work on or your future, then you're going to feel stressed and you're not going to be fully engaged or have positive employee experience. AI is a real trigger for a lot of people, right? And the American Psychological Association has some really great stats. So if you're worried about AI, making some or all of your job duties obsolete, you are almost twice as likely to believe that you do not matter to your employer. Almost, 2.5 times more likely to feel like you do not matter to your coworkers. and you're absolutely feeling micromanaged at work and worried that new forms of technology will take over some or all of your work duties in the next 10 years, like 3 times more
That's
likely to do it.
that's devastating. Like that's
Right?
really
So many critical
harrowing.
things are
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's insane. And so what's the salve for that? What's the solution to that? In part, it's just telling your employees, like, here's how we feel about AI. Here's how we're going to use AI in your role and in
Hmm.
your job, and where we imagine it will impact everyone. And for
Hmm.
those who are deeply studying AI and technology trends and evolution over time, big, giant, massive shifts in technology almost never result in like the devastation of people's careers and jobs. Yes, it
Yeah,
makes change, and yes, skills need to be adjusted, but we're at 3.8% unemployment, and
yeah,
probably, higher than that in underemployment, but not to an alarming extent.
right.
And we've had technology change, hundreds of times over the past several decades.
Yeah.
So the worst has not come to pass. But if you're able to communicate to your employees, and it's an imperative right now, about the way AI should be used within the organization as an accelerator,
Hmm.
as an inertia lifter. We talked about that in the other podcast. An object at rest stays at
Hmm.
rest. Well, AI can be that extra little force to get you rolling downhill on your task.
Yep.
Can AI can help you, and systems and technology can help you get busy and administrative work done, so you're freed up to do the strategic stuff that really makes an impact,
Yeah.
and can give you access to better information faster, or better people faster as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think people should be specifically scared of artificial intelligence, but if their leadership are not communicating about that in a very clear way, or if they're not using AI ethically, in an ethical manner, in a way
Hmm.
that's for the best of their business and their people, then you're going to create friction, and you're going to create stress amongst your employees. And you're going to create a scenario in which people aren't giving their best or having their best time at work,
Yeah, yeah,
resulting
yeah.
in negative performance outcomes.
Well, when you have something this big and your leadership and at any company is just quiet about it, then the assumption I think for any employees is they're thinking about something. They're doing something. Something's happening behind.
Yep.
Even if they're not,
Yep.
even if they're just worried about something else with the bottom line or the that's happening in the industry,
Right.
people will start to, I think, create those feelings of not only
Yeah.
distrust but what's going to happen to me. What's going to happen to me? um, there's a word, and I don't think it's a typo, but it's in the report. It's the first time that I've seen a phrase, and it's another AI, and this one was augmented intelligence, and that really resonated me with, like when I saw that, and you alluded to that in this getting the ball rolling. So instead of it just being artificial intelligence, it's this
Right.
this marry between, or marry, this unity, this binding, this whatever, this augmented
Sure. Yeah.
intelligence. So me having augmented intelligence to do
Mm-hmm.
my job and be successful in my work. That
Yes.
was really
Imagine
compelling.
having a, yeah, I agree. And imagine having like a personal assistant that is not about doing your dry cleaning or something like completely innate. Augmented intelligence is about surfacing findings, surfacing insights, giving critical, timely alerts that enable you to take more focused and impactful action. So when we
Yeah.
talk about augmented intelligence, which I absolutely love that phrase as well, it's about empowering people leaders by giving them the information that they need from like the core perceptions of their work group's mind, so that they
Mm-hmm.
can actually deliver a great work group experience, a great work group operational structure and strategy, so that they rise to the top of their performance goals, and that everyone wins and everyone performs better. Because when people are winning, when analytics are aligned to your goals and capturing sentiment and providing you with the information you need to make sure that each person is like really humming and really
Yeah.
delivering great experience and performance, then everyone's going to feel better. And sometimes having a great big win can offset some of the like small needling that occurs just by being a human being in the work. Like if you're worried about AI taking your job, but your team just like nailed some big deal or big manufacturing project, like you're not so worried about AI taking your job anymore because you just crushed it, right? You just nailed it. And so there's like that balance and that dichotomy between like feelings are facts and what am I feeling, and actions are also facts, and impact and results outweigh a lot of like smaller, more minor concerns.
Yeah. So how do we remove then any of the friction or the things that are distractions, or take the time to prevent people from just being able to win, so that we make that so it's possible for them. That personalization is really, really big. I don't know if you saw. Do you watch? Did you follow CES, the big electronic, that was it, consumer electronics show?
Sure.
Each year.
Yeah, sure.
This year, there was a device called like Rabbit R2 or Rabbit R1 or something, but it was similar in what you're talking about, and it seems to suggest where technology is going in general. Is this here's your device.
Was it the little AI thing that goes on your collar?
Yeah, the little red thing that you wear.
Yeah.
And you could just say like, hey, I need a ride home. Great. Here's how much it will cost. It's connected to Uber, but you don't have to open the Uber app and then choose it and then get it and go through. Or can you play the song for me? You don't have to say play it on Apple Music or play it on Spotify. No. It knows what you listen to, so it just grabs the song and plays it. Yeah. So having something like Simpplr, or having this unified place where that's where the data sits, that's where the report sits, that's where we capture the sentiment and the what's going on with employee experience and things like that. But I can choose how I want to get my information and be able to still measure all that type of stuff. That's seems to be the direction. Like I think that AI is taking us to be able to do something like that.
I strongly agree, and I think you'll find over time we get closer and closer. Not just in employee technology, but in our lives, to the point where, like, Star Trek, like computer, do X, Y, and Z, and it just does X, Y, and Z. Right? We're there in little ways in many regards, but the more. So let's bring it back into the workplace, right? In order to do that, you need to build a very solid and integrated infrastructure. Right? You have a whole tech stack. You have all different types of data flowing in and flowing out, and exhaust data, all kinds of different information happening, right? And this is not I make it sound easy. It's not an easy thing, but integrating more and more systems together so that the information is there and searchable and analyzable. The more you do that, the better you do that, the more the interaction layer will be able to mimic sort of an all-powerful computer that can get you what you need and make you a dinner out of the artificial dinner.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's when we're in the future, is when I can just order a turkey dinner in the machine and some ice cream.
Exactly. But we're incrementally stepping in that direction, which I think is really great. Very exciting.
Yeah. Final personal question that I promised. Professional question.
Oh yeah, right.
That I could probably guess. What's your one golden rule for work? Like professionally, what's your one golden rule?
I think I don't know that I necessarily have a golden rule, because like my golden rule is like to treat everybody, as
the golden rule
they should be treated, right? The actual golden rule.
Yeah.
Right. But largely because I like come from a center of like feeling good and wanting people to like me and want to like people.
Yeah.
I'll build people up and all that. But the real golden rule is like, I like to, and I expect people around me to like give 100% at all times. Right. And if I'm not proud of an effort, then that leaves me feeling really bad. And I feel like I let people down around me. And I don't love that feeling, but then I don't love the downstream effects, because somebody else is going to have to clean up that mess or do something as a result of it. Right. So in my golden rule, and I think for the people around me, like, are you proud of what you just did? Right. Yeah. Did you put your all your effort or your good faith effort into whatever work product you're trying to create. And if you're feeling proud of that, then great, right?
Yeah.
If you think like maybe I could have done better last time or we'll do better next time, also great. I don't like sit around and go like that sucked, you're out. If you're giving your all, and I say this to my kids, right? Full effort, try to be strategic, do things in a way that you're going to be proud of. And like, let's say you get a C on a test, but you like worked your butt off. Like, fine. I'm not going to yell at you for getting a C on the test. I'm going to think about like, what strategies can we do to make it better next time? But if you like, played, on your tablet for 6 hours instead of studying, like, hopefully you're not proud of that. And then we're going to have a different type of conversation. And I expect people to do the same to me. If I like, you're really slacking today, Jordan, like maybe we need to have a little convo.
Yeah.
Though hopefully I don't do a lot of slacking. It doesn't feel like I do a lot of slacking.
Yeah. Play to win. Play to win.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, dude, thanks again.
My pleasure.
We'll put in the notes where to go to get the report to take a look at this and the other one that we talked about.
That'll be great.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I love chatting with you, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Listen, I love it. I love sharing information, and I love talking about employee experience and statistics, and sometimes about science fiction stuff. So I'm in for whenever.
Right on. We'll talk to you again soon.